Welcome to the Next Level Life podcast with Christine Corcoran. This podcast is made for the powerhouse businesswomen who are ready to ignite their fullest potential. This is where we will dive deep into the mindset breakthroughs and sprinkle in some kick up the butt motivation so you can scale your business with confidence and clarity. Whether you're craving more income, impact, or inspiration, this podcast will be your ultimate resource for all things next level. Listen in as we have authentic conversations with game-changing female entrepreneurs as we reveal the secrets on what it takes to rise and thrive. So go ahead, ignite your inner fire, and let's get you taking massive aligned action. Are you ready to elevate? Let's go. Welcome back to the podcast. So excited that you are here. I am going to jump into today's topic, which is all about buying back your time. I recently read the book, actually not recently, I've read it again because I read it back in, I think it was January. No, it was November last year when I was flying to Perth and I read it on the plane. And honestly, it's such a great book by Dan Martell. So if you have not checked out this book, you definitely need to get it. But I want to give you a summary and a breakdown of what I took from it because honestly, I feel like I keep coming back to it with so many of my mastermind clients who are really struggling with time and organization and putting in systems in place in order to support the growth of your business. And so what I'm actually doing with the next event, so as part of the Next Level Mastermind, I have an in-person day where we do a full day of masterminding. So I have a couple of key speakers that come, and one of those speakers is an OBM who will be coming through to break down all the ins and outs of building out SOPs for your business, as well as looking at organization and systems that actually support the growth and expansion of your business. Because there definitely comes a time where you need to expand, you need team, you need automations and systems in place to support the growth and the support and service level that you want to offer your clients as you grow. And so, I've gone through a massive upgrade with that with regards to Unstoppable Sales and previously named Elevate Mastermind. I knew that I want to use this as scalable offers. And so for that to happen, I really wanted to, one of the biggest things that was preventing me from scaling was really believing in the ability to actually manage that amount of clients. And so there are specific systems that I put in place in order to support the growth and scale. So then I can feel like it's still creating a beautiful, great community. I can feel like I'm across everyone's businesses, that I know what the hell I'm talking about with everyone's businesses, and I'm not just giving random advice. I know their background, I know what's happening for them, I know what's their stage of business that they're in and where they want to take it. So you have to put systems in place in order for that to be available, because there was a time in previous rounds where I remember saying to my OBM, I'm feeling super overwhelmed because I don't know who's coming or going. I don't know what's going on, where everyone is, where everyone's at with their goals. And that's really frustrating to me as a coach, because I was like, I need to feel like I'm across this. And so we actually put in regular meetings to make sure that we're across everyone's goals, make sure that we're seeing that everyone's engaging, we're being across everyone's progress within the content, and looking at every key piece of the mastermind. And also for us to then consistently launch as well, like I need to have systems in place. Otherwise I'd go mental. I'd honestly go mental. And so knowing this was a big barrier for me to scale it, because I had that hesitation and resistance towards scaling, because I was like, this is going to take so much more work. This is going to take so much more of my time. This is going to be really hard to be across everything. Am I going to be able to manage more clients? And so there was different changes I needed to make within the mastermind. So even like with Unstoppable Sales, I've actually changed an element of that where I've broken it into smaller groups so that I can actually speak to absolutely everyone on some of those group calls, because I want to make sure that I'm across where they're at, where they're getting stuck. And I'm finding that the more one-on-one interaction that I have, that supports that. So I needed to make some of those changes. And so I guess I wanted to share a lot about what I've taken away from Buy Back Your Time, as well as the things that I'm doing within my business in order to support that growth, because I feel like not enough people talk about this, and it just looks like you scale and it all looks easy. And then one of the biggest hesitations people have to joining programs is that they're not sure whether they're going to get the support that they need. And that was a big thing for me. I really wanted to make sure that they definitely get the support that they need, and they get that interaction, they get the one-on-one support. Otherwise, I feel like they're not going to be able to achieve their goals. And because a lot of the time people don't know where they're stuck. They just know that they're stuck, and they actually need a coach to come in and ask them the right questions to uncover where they're stuck in order to support them or direct them to where they need to go in order to keep moving forward. So as part of my programs, I needed to ensure that that was possible. So I've definitely been doing a lot of upgrades, and some of them have actually come from really looking at where I'm spending my time within my business. And so this is also what I'm going to take everyone through at the next mastermind day, is really looking at where are they currently spending their time and what do we need to outsource, delegate, or automate. And so we really need to look at this in order for you to grow your business. And so we're doing this at the next in-person event. Which actually reminds me, the waitlist for the next round of the mastermind, for Next Level Mastermind, opens now. So I'm going to pop the link in the show notes. So if you would love to check out a little bit more about the Next Level Mastermind and find out whether it might be a good fit for you for your next elevation in your business and the support that you need in order to keep moving forward, then definitely check it out. The next round starts in October. All right, so if you have not checked out this book, you need to go buy this book. It's called Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. And you can buy it either on audiobook. I think I read it first and then I bought it. I had to actually ship it across from America because I couldn't get it here in Australia. But you might be able to now. I can remember listening to this back in November, so it might be already here. All right, so this book is all about getting unstuck, reclaiming your freedom, and building your empire. So it's really super practical. And this is, I guess, what I love about it being a Virgo. Super, super practical. It's literally like, if this is your problem, go and do this. It's so good. So it's really looking at how business owners can optimize their time and increase productivity. And as a really successful entrepreneur and investor, Martell shares his strategies to help readers reclaim their time by delegating tasks, focusing on high impact activities, and avoiding burnout. So this is, I guess, why the reason why I love this book is because I'm all about high impact activities. If you're not doing needle moving activities in your business, you are not growing. If you are not focused on sales activities, you're most likely not making consistent income. And this is where I love to help support my clients, is so I get down to the nitty gritty of getting super clear on what those activities are so they know how to grow their business and what ones need to be super consistent and which ones need to be delegated, which ones need to be automated, which ones need to be scheduled in your calendar to make sure that they actually happen. Okay, so let's dive into the buyback principle. So the whole concept of the book is all about that entrepreneurs should buy back their time by outsourcing or delegating tasks that don't align with the highest value activities. So you may have heard me talk about this before in the past around knowing what your zone of genius is. So is your zone of genius, and there's also your zone of excellence. Now, usually you're most likely getting paid for activities that are in your zone of excellence. They're things that you're really good at, other people tell you you're really good at, are willing to pay you for it, but it's not necessarily things you absolutely freaking love. Whereas your zone of genius is this place where you're in absolute flow, that you absolutely love it, it lights you up, it expands you, and it's sometimes in this fear-based, it's out of your comfort zone, and it's things that maybe you haven't necessarily been paid for just as much as you would like to be. And so to spend more time in your zone of genius and your zone of excellence, you also need to outsource, delegate, or automate elements or activities that are in your zone of competence or zone of incompetence. So the zone of genius concept is actually from The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, which is another incredible book, and I read it regularly. It's such a great book, especially when you're in the middle of an up level. And this was definitely a reminder of that, is like, okay, you need to determine not only what your zone of genius activities are, but you also need to determine what are the most high value impact practices within your business, right? And I've talked about this before, like visibility activities, sales activities. Otherwise, you're most likely not getting in front of the right clients and you're probably not making consistent income. And the third one being growth focused activities. So that's my take on it. So this is how he talks about it. So time and value alignment, he emphasizes the importance of understanding the value of your time and aligning your daily activities with that value. So rather than focusing on like all the admin, all the bits and pieces and all the things that need to happen within your business, you need to go, okay, what are the most high value impact activities that I should be doing in my business? Where are you in your most highest value? And the way that he does this is calculating your buyback rate. So determining how much your hour of your time is worth. So when you determine that, and that's usually where you're getting paid the most, right? So if you think about the types of services that you offer, and what you currently charge them out hourly. Now, you may not charge hourly, but determine what that is. And he takes you through a full calculation of how to work out your buyback rate. And then if there's a task that can be outsourced that costs less than the buyback rate that you have set for your hour, then you should delegate it. And I absolutely freaking love this. And this is where I think sometimes so many entrepreneurs get so stuck. They get stuck in the headspace thinking, oh no, I should just do it on myself. It's easier, it's cheaper. I'm going to have to pay someone this much to do it. But if your current buyback rate is say $500 an hour, then anything less than that, you should be outsourcing. So you might then pay a VA, you might pay a specialist, you might pay someone that is actually better at it than you are. You might pay someone that is quicker at it than you are. And so it's this getting away from this whole scarcity headspace, because this is where that sits. Because if you're holding yourself back from growth because you're too scared to invest in actually doing some of the stuff that you really that shouldn't be on your plate, that's most likely what's preventing your growth and expansion. So one of the key things you need to do to begin with is actually map out where you currently spend your time. And then you will basically look at what he breaks down as his time value matrix. So basically what he looks at is categorizes the impact and the amount of time that they currently take you to do. And so we need to look at, like, is that your best use of your time? Otherwise, we need to look at, how do we get rid of this? Do we need to delegate it? And one of the key things is really looking at, what are some of the repetitive tasks? What are the repetitive tasks that you're currently doing in your business that take time, that don't necessarily mean you have to do them? So this is possibly where the automation piece needs to come into place. And so you need to do your own audit on your own time to determine what these things are, in order for you then to be able to see the wood for the trees, to be able to see where you need to delegate some of this stuff. And so this book, Buy Back Your Time, it really provides a lot of guidance on how to identify tasks to delegate, and also find the right people and find the systems that will actually support you in the delegation and outsourcing. So this allows you to move everything off your to-do list into a delegation list in order for you to be able to focus on those high impact activities. Think about this. If you spent 80% of your time doing high impact activities in your business, how much faster would your business grow? How much better would your business be? Like, there's so many benefits to this. And I think some people just get so stuck in all the doing that they don't focus any time on growth focused activities. They don't spend any time on visibility activities, and they just get caught up behind the scenes doing all the admin, which is a waste of your time. And so I remember one of my mentors said to me one time, they were like, as soon as you're hitting 10K months, you should be delegating at least 20% of your income to outsourcing more stuff. And I remember at the time I was actually earning 10K months, and I was like, really? Oh my God, like that's so much. And then when I looked at it, I was like, oh my God, I could absolutely be delegating. And that's actually when I started hitting 15K and 20K months, because I was outsourcing stuff that was a waste of my time, but it was really needed to be done, but not by me, because my higher value tasks were visibility activities, growth focused activities, sales activities. So me focusing on those and not having to worry about all the stuff behind the scenes allowed me to grow my business faster. So I really want you to think about this, because sometimes business owners don't even know what their high impact activities are. Like, this is one of the things that I go through in both of my programs, because it is so prevalent across no matter what stage of business you're in. You can get so caught up in doing all of the things and in the headspace of scarcity, or in the headspace of like control, because you're like, oh, I can't let someone else do this. And that's where you are preventing your growth and expansion. So we need to get super clear on what those high impact activities are. We need to look at which ones are actually creating more burnout for you, because you need to get rid of those fast. Which ones can you automate, and actually all those repetitive tasks to start to automate those. And then one of the other things that he identified too, which I really loved, was the stop doing list. So where you have your normal to-do list, right? And I always love this around creating to-do lists that don't create overwhelm. So I always talk about like creating categories within your to-do list so you can ensure that you're across everything, and then make sure you're also passing responsibilities as well. So rather than just asking for a task to be done, actually setting responsibilities. And this is actually something that I put in place with my team. And I found such a benefit from this, because people want to feel like they're a part of something. They want to feel like they are really achieving something. And if you're just passing on tasks and to-do lists, then it feels like you're just telling them what to do. And so what you want to do, rather than actually set tasks, is actually set goals or specific outcomes that you want them to achieve. So for instance, one of the things that I gave one of my team members, I realized that my email marketing was really not working to the stage of, one, it was taking me so much time, I really wanted to outsource it. Two, I would get so bogged down in creating the content for the email that I would leave the subject line to last, and then I would just literally have no energy to create a popping subject line, which then means that no one would open my emails, and my email open rate was really low. So rather than saying to her, I want you just to create a subject line, I said to her, I want you to actually focus on increasing the open rate for my emails. So I gave her a couple of suggestions. I said to her, like, I've got obviously the body of the email. I suck at creating popping headlines. So what I would love for you to do is I'd love for you to notice any emails that you necessarily open in your inbox and just make note of some really good headlines. Secondly, I want you to copy and paste the email into ChatGPT and ask it to pump out 10 to 20 subject lines, and then choose one that you feel that would be really impactful for our ideal client, and to ensure that they would open it. And so by setting that task for her, we then would go back a month later and have a meeting and check in with how the open rate's going. And so she felt more empowered to actually see that she's making a difference, rather than go, oh, I just want you to create a new subject line, just do it, right? It was like, no, this is the goal. This is what we're working towards. Can you help me with this? And the same thing with one of my other team members who helps me with a lot of the launches. So we're working on Facebook ads and we're working on launch strategies. And so I was saying to her, like, these are the goals for the launch. This is what we really want to achieve. this is where I feel like we're going to get stuck, and this is where I feel like your strong suit is, this is my strong suit. How can we come together to work to make sure that we get to this goal? And so when you're building out responsibilities for your team rather than just a to-do list, it helps support them in staying empowered within their role, and they take full responsibility for it then. So the other awesome things in this book is the way that he practically breaks down automations and the way that he gives like scripts, like he literally gives scripts on how to have an out of office email, how to have a bounce back email that really directs people where they need to go. So that's another thing that I implemented, is actually having a couple of links towards the bottom of an email. So if ever I want to have like a quiet inbox, so I might be like deep in work, I want to make sure that I'm not getting a whole bunch of emails that I feel like I have to action straight away. So what I did is actually set up an email response that had a bunch of links that showed people where to go. So like it's like, if you're coming to my inbox because you need this, you can go here. If you need this, go here. If you need this, go here. So it was creating these spaces to support the high impact, high value activities. Because without having time for that, if you're so bogged down in your inbox, you cannot move forward. And the last thing there was also then building systems and building your team as well. So this is where I started to work on my SOPs. This is also where I started to look at any other systems that I need to put in place in order to support the growth of my business. And I like to come from a place of reverse engineering it. So where do you want to be in 5 years' time? Let's start there and go, okay, so how many people would you like in your courses, your programs, your offerings, whatever it is that you sell? And then go, what systems would you need in place in order to nurture that? This is also where I started to uncover that I was like, oh, I'm going to need other types of support as well. And so it's changed the way that I now look at hiring team, rather than going like I need to find a generalist or someone that just tries to jack of all trades, a unicorn. I'm like, actually, who do I need? Like, who has the special skills that I need? And how can I just focus on hiring that person for that key area? I don't necessarily just have to have one team member. I could have 3 to 4, and they have different responsibilities that actually support the growth of my business. And so that's where I'm going. That's where I'm moving towards. And what I've done to support this is build out a really strong onboarding process. Make sure that I'm building out SOPs in the back end of my business, because that way, if I have anyone leave, I don't have to then go back to try and train them across everything. That I've actually got that built out in. I've actually got it built out in my Drive. So I have specific little Loom videos and little step-by-step instructions where I create the Loom video and then I share it with my OBM. She then breaks it down into an SOP, makes it step-by-step super easy, and then adds it to the hard drive, to the My Drive. So it's really thinking about you're building out your business as if you were already a company, right? That you already have 10 to 20, 30 staff that you do not have time to train. So you want to think about how you're growing this out. And you may think like, oh, I'm not there yet. But if you actually start building out with where you're at, you'll be surprised at how quickly you will get to that stage, and that you will be even busier and you won't have time then to create the SOPs. So sometimes you actually need to start with where you're at, because some things are not going to change. Some things will, like obviously social media or whatever platforms you're using, like that might change for sure. But there's definitely going to be some things that you put in place that aren't going to change necessarily over 1 year's time, 2 years' time. And so thinking about like, firstly, I think it just always comes back down to those high impact activities. Where are you currently spending your time? And is the time that you're being spent well spent? Or is it actually just spent on the busy work, which is actually costing you more to do when really you should be focused on those high value activities? So if you haven't grabbed the book, definitely do that. It is such a great book. So it was called Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell, How to Get Unstuck, Reclaim Your Freedom, and Build Your Empire. I hope you love it. Let me know what you think once you read it. Otherwise, have an incredible week. Thank you for listening, and if you found any value out of this episode, make sure you hit the follow button so you get access to the episodes as soon as they are live, and make sure you come hang out with me on Instagram. You can find me at ChristineCorcoran_coach. Have an incredible week.